Okay, very good afternoon. Our 10th day, last day in this first cycle of our 100 days program. I've been extremely happy and contented with your commitment. There have been few escapades, uh, like from the high protected prison jail. There have been few escapades that I can notice, but it's okay. You guys will be caught very soon. Don't worry, and will put back into the jail for the next 90 days. Doesn't matter. So just surrender yourself. That's the best idea for you guys. Okay. So try to get used this something that benefits you all. 10th day. Only one thing I would like to tell you before I get into the discussion. Yesterday, I made one observation while discussion, but I would like to correct it. Thanks for pointing it out. With respect to geo transfer orbit, with respect to that, geo transfer orbit, just note it down. I would like to correct it because I told that if this is the Earth and this is the geostationary orbit, which is always circular, we cannot inject the satellites directly into this geostationary orbit. We have something called as temporary, but in the temporary, I called it as too elliptical beyond geostationary. I told you, right? I'm sorry, I would like to correct it. It's usually within that. அதாவது it will be elliptical initially, but later it will acquire a circular path. So this highest apogee of GTO, geotransfer orbit, is similar to 36,000 kilometers, which is the same of geostationary orbit. The idea is this geotransfer orbit won't go beyond this orbit. But yesterday I put it something like this, which is not correct. So please change that. With a small correction that I would like to pass it on to you guys. I think you guys have got the question right in your hand. We'll do it little quicker. I have another session to take in Satyabama University, 3:30. I have to rush a little. So kunja vegama paakalam na. Okay, so we'll start right now. Okay, shall we? Okay. Question number 1. The question is about exothermic reactions, which means where the heat is released into the surroundings. Okay, so it has to be something which releases heat. For example, when you have a water vapor, okay, okay. For example, let me say that water is there in a surface. You've seen, Karthik Defense Center, one of the famous tourist spot for UPSC aspirants in Anna Nagar, with good food. Regularly they used to spray the water. You know what happens? Why they do that? To cool down. What happens when the water falls onto that hot iron plate? I don't know where but that plate, that absorbs the heat. The water absorbs the heat and then vaporizes. So conversion of a water into vapor is endothermic. It absorbs the heat. That's why I want to tell you evaporation should only a water to water vapor is always results in cooling effect. That's why you also sweat when there is a heat. That helps you cooling. So evaporation always means cooling. And what will be the reverse? The water vapor changes into solid. It will be exothermic. That's why you feel very warmth when the cloud is forming, right? Because the reverse is happening. Water vapor is changing into liquid, or the water vapor is changing into snowflakes. It's in fact reverse. And the water vapor and the heat absorb and they went up. When they change into liquid or snowflakes, they release that heat back. So it is exothermic. The transformation of water into vapor, I told you, it results in cooling effect. Evaporation has a cooling effect. Wrong. Oxidation of iron. Remember, oxidation is what that drives you. which drives me, which drives everything. So oxidation, in fact, is an energy releasing process. But the fact here is it happens very slowly. Therefore, we do not notice the heating effect, but it still heats up. The point is, oxidation usually is energy releasing process. It's an exothermic process. Only two. Question number 2. Many vaccines currently in use to prevent diseases are RNA vaccines. RNA vaccines, DNA vaccines, they are in fact some of the most recent coming of age vaccines. We have both DNA as well as RNA, but in terms of development, I think we have, this is more like, appadi miss panniten solluvom theriyuma. RNA, there are 2 vaccines rightly in use. DNA, there is only 1 vaccine. So generally we have to say there are more RNA vaccines in use than DNA vaccine, but both are for COVID. We have DNA vaccine as well as RNA vaccine. It is something of a maturing area. So we don't have too much, but RNA is there. But when we say about vaccines, we also have DNA. You are going to give external DNA. There is always a problem of this vaccine getting into our cells and getting into the nucleus. Very problematic. But RNA won't do that. Second, so the first thing is genome integration probabilities. Otherwise, a vaccine accidentally may get into our cell and become part of our genome, which is very problematic. Second, RNA would a lifetime less. Generally, the lifetime of RNA is very less. And single standard, they are very easy to be broken. No. This is a kind of a weaker guy in their society. It will be thrashed, minority, something like that. So DNA is double stranded, more stable. So therefore, scientists believe that having RNA vaccine is safer. Why? RNA won't integrate into our nucleus. RNA can be easily cleared. So even if some RNA vaccine goes wrong, even if you take it, probably within 1 month or 2, you will be fine. So RNA vaccine is kind of more preferred. And the second one is correct. First one is also correct, but the thing is they are not the reason for each. Of course, yes. Which one? Of course, yes. When DNA vaccine is used, what happens? It results in making long-term safety considerations because of the integration. What happens when that integrates into your DNA? That becomes part of you, and that also parts of next generation, and which has to be stopped. But RNA don't have that at all. Okay, so so it is advantageous, right? It is not disadvantageous. So that's correct only. Both are correct, but it is not explanation for. This is not explanation for that. B is the answer for this. Question number 3, Lagrangian points. This has to be a point that has to be familiar for you all. Lagrangian points when we consider any 2 bodies which are dissimilar in size, one big body and one small body, they both will try to attract everything around it. Okay, and they try to find that there are certain points between them where the gravitational pull of each, this is like tug of war. We have a rope and we pull each other on the sides, something like that. So there are certain points where the tug of war becomes equal, which means it's balanced. So those balanced points of equilibrium, it's called as a points of equilibrium, the locations of equilibrium in terms of gravity between the 2 objects. That is what called as Lagrangian points, and theoretically any 2 objects there will be Lagrangian points. Remember, there is a Lagrangian point in our solar system also between Sun and the Jupiter. That is why asteroid belt is seen close to Jupiter, because that is the most stable point for the asteroids. Why it is not found near Earth? Why it is not found Saturn? Because Jupiter is the next largest in the solar system. So that is a stable spot. Likewise, when we consider Sun and the Earth, there are 5 points. 1, L1, L2, but I'm saying for reason 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the 5 Lagrangian points. And what is the distance? 1.5 million kilometers. Both L1, L2, it is both 1.5 million kilometers. How they behave? Usually, I want to tell you one thing. See, I don't know. I was having a little time crunch today, but I felt it important, but it's okay. இங்க வரும்போது நினைக்கிறோம் ஆரம்பிச்சுனா I couldn't control that. Every day it happens until up to 2 o'clock, but we'll see. See, I already told you yesterday, as the object moves closer and the distance and the altitude decreases, it rotates faster. The orbital velocity increases. அப்போ என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா, Earth has a certain orbital revolution time. When it goes closer, the time reduces, correct? But what happens, even though it goes closer by 1.5 million kilometers, because Earth pulls it back, the beauty thing is, it also has the same orbital period of Earth. You get what I'm saying? You understand the nuance? Even though this L1 is closer to Sun, you need to understand how this moves around now. This is Earth, this is Sun, this is Earth. Earth moves around the Sun like this. So what about this object? So let's say Aditya L1 is going to be placed there. Whether this Aditya L1 is going around the Earth like this or is going around the Sun like this, now it is going to move around like this. In what speed now? In what time now? The same time as that of Earth. That is what I would like to tell you. Okay, it has the same orbital rotational period as that of Earth because Earth pulls it back. That's what we call it as Lagrangian points, right? So if we look at the statements with this understanding, we can get that. A is the answer. Yeah. See, this is like, this is contrary. When it is attracted by sign towards it, it is compensated by Earth. Okay. For example, when we see L Sun, this is Earth. If you consider this point L2, okay, naturally what happens is it tends to move away farther. But to keep it within the radius, to keep it within the distance, will be compensated more if these two bodies are in line with each other. So here, Sun acts in conjunction with, it's called as conjunction, in conjunction with Earth to keep it in line. The same is true for L3 also. But here, 4 and 5, because they are right angles, there is a perfect cancellation of the gravitational field and therefore they are more stable. Okay. Okay. Question number 4. Which of the following technologies typically employ sound waves? Okay. Ultrasound imaging, S. ECG. Why? Electrocardiogram, which uses electrical transducers to see that. Very good. But what about echocardiogram? That is also called as echocardiogram. That is also electrocardiogram. So this is for echocardiogram. Correct. You would have seen in cars nowadays we install high shrieking noise installation kept. No, that makes noise to repel the rat because rat can hear the high frequency noise where we cannot. It's something like somebody is going to your ear and shouting, kind of making undesirable noises. That's why we use it. So ultrasound noise devices are used to repel pests. Correct. But when we say radar, it uses radio waves. It doesn't use sound waves at all. Wrong. Only 3 is the answer. Huh? It's wrong. If it's electrocardiogram, it measures the electrical signals released by the heart during its systolic and aortic construction. அது தப்பு. எனக்கு தெரியும் நீங்க ECGனா அதுதான் நினைப்பீங்கன்னு. ஆனா இன்னொன்னும் இருக்குன்னு தெரிஞ்சதுன்னா அது போட்டேன். If I put echocardiogram, you would have easily said sound. I wanted to keep the dilemma. That's why I kept ECG, which is applicable for this and that. Okay, it was intentional. So which of the following fields do? Radiations have its applications. We use radiation in agriculture, yes. We also use it in medical diagnostics. We also use radiation for oil drilling, particularly to understand the reserve qualities and the quantities. Treatment of cancer, yes, of course, we use radiation. The answer on 5th one, in the measurement of movement of the pollutants, yes, it is also being used because they will release a low intensity radionuclei and they will measure how it spreads, how faster it spreads, and by that they will understand how the pollutant also spreads in the particular region. So it is also used, all the 5. So let's move to the next 5. Question number 6. Dark energy was discovered and proven by Albert Einstein. He has discovered many things, but not this. Dark energy was in fact discovered by, the phenomenon was understood by Adam Rice in 1998. Okay, so dark energy is considered to be the one of the 3 components of the universe. The very stars, the planets, and everything that we see is constitutes visible matter, also called as baryonic matter. Visible world, baryonic matter. The next important component is dark energy. This is not about Thanos, அது வந்து imagination. This is real dark energy. It constitutes believed to be constituting about 68% of the universe. And third one is dark matter, and this constitutes about 25%. So visible universe is something around 5 to 7% only, not more than that. And let me tell you some important components also. Dark matter, when we say, it cannot be observed, it cannot be seen, it cannot be measured, nothing. We don't have technology so far. Only thing we know how dark energy exists is very similar to how the black hole exists also, by its gravitational effects. Like how black hole cannot be seen, but it can be known by its gravitational effects. Dark matter also has the same gravitational effects. One. Second, it can also bend the light. Okay, like how gravity can bend light, it also can bend the light. Okay, that's the 2 things. And dark energy, when we say, of course it cannot be seen at all, we don't know what it is. But one thing that we have understood is there are 3 things that dark energy is known for. One, we know about expansion of the universe, but we are talking about accelerated expansion of the universe. Things are going faster away and away. Accelerated expansion of the universe, one. And second, the universe, when you look at the picture of the universe, it seems like a flat. But when you think about Big Bang bubble, so there are many inconsistencies. When you think about Big Bang that happened, it seems to be like it should have happened like a bubble. It started from a point, it exploded. How it has to explode? In all the 360 direction. எப்படி இருக்கணும்? ஒரு bubble மாதிரி இருக்கணும், spherical. But we don't have observations that actually support this idea. It's considered to be flat. The universe is considered to be flat, and scientists believe that dark energy could be the reason behind the flatness of the universe. And third, the galaxies appears dimmer and farther than they are. Like a kind of an illusion. It seems like they are farther, and they are also like dimmer, and that also scientists believe may be due to dark energy. So 3 things are attributed for the dark energy and its phenomenon, and it is believed that more than 60% is dark energy. I said 68, so this is correct, but 1 is wrong. 2 only is the answer. Directly benefits to the human beings. Lactobacillus, yes, we use it. Lactobacillus, yes, we use it in curd, it's used in yogurts. Aspergillus niger, yes, even though Aspergillus niger can be used, usually called as bread mold. When you leave bread or other products and for about 20-30 days, you found that black kind of a formation, cottony appearance, that is Aspergillus niger. But not only that, it can also be used industrially. Aspergillus niger is most widely used to make citric acid. So it is also useful, but it also has some negative things, but useful, yes. Streptococcus thermophilus is another important bacteria very commonly used in yogurts. When you buy yogurts, you see what's the ingredient, you will see this guy. So all the three is answered. About stem cell transplants, for some complications, we may need to have stem cells to be our savior, the last savior, maybe saving the organ or even saving the lives. But as of now, let me tell you, stem cell transplant is approved only for blood-related ailments. Even though potentially stem cell is limitless in terms of potential, that doesn't mean that we see, just because it is theoretically possible doesn't mean that practically it is viable. So we haven't achieved that excellency so far, but practically, or we can say from what has been done so far, stem cell treatment has been extended for blood related ailments like blood cancer or genetic anemia, thrombocytopenia and சொல்லுவாங்க. Blood related ailments, stem cell have been doing wonders. Okay, and also it also has a limited impact for eye related complications, related something associated with retina. In the ரெண்டு இடத்துல மட்டும் தான் stem cells have been used so far, but not in any other cases. In fact, nowadays I even have one of my friend called and asked me to suggestion about his wife is going to get delivery very soon, and the hospital is making and asking them pay us about $80,000. We'll store the cord blood, cord blood stem cell. The idea is, unless there is any blood related ailment in their family for about 3-4 generations on both sides, not even single anemic or some kind of even things, it's usually waste, because that cord blood that you're going to store, is going to help you only for blood related. Don't think that the stem cell that you're going to store is going to be a kind of a magic bullet that everything can be solved. That's not true. And there are other complications also, how well they store it. If they make even a small contamination when they get it during delivery, everything is going to dilute it. And after 50 years, they will say, I'm sorry, it's all gone. You can do nothing about it. So it's usually, as of now, it's practically useless. Okay, now I said blood related, right? How they do it? They will completely remove your bone marrow, replace the new bone marrow. So usually stem cell treatment as of now is associated with bone marrow transplant. Exactly correct. It's allogenic transplantation. Transplantation can be many. Autogenic from the same person to the same person. I'll take a stem cell from my body, put it back into my own body. It's called as auto. Auto means self. Allogenic means like same species. For example, you may be donating to me or I'm donating to you. That's called as allogenic, within the species. But if the same thing happens across the species, from a pig we take that stem cell and put it into humans, that's called as xeno. So auto, allo, xeno. Alloன்னு சொல்லும்போது patient ஓன்றது தப்பு. One only is answer. So this has to be easy question about spoofing. Spoofing is identity theft, yes. Phishing is stealing sensitive information, yes. Both are correct. Question number 10 about solid lipid nanoparticles. So they are solid lipid nanoparticles, like it's like a nanoparticle, like it's like a cargo, like how Amazon sends you all the ordered products with a fine package, for the drugs and all the vaccines and the medicines you send, they want to give a package. Inside you will have the drug. That package is what called a solid lipid nanoparticle. They are mostly like a delivery packaging. Okay, so they are prone to high degree of toxicity. No, not true. They are not very much toxic. They cannot be used. No, not like that. They can be used for delivering drugs, delivering vaccines, whether RNA vaccines or DNA vaccines. It can be used widely. So both are wrong. Let's move to the next set of 5 questions. எப்படிங்கம்மா என்னங்கம்மா? I said neither one nor two. Ninth one. That was a mineral answer. Question number 11. With respect to certain proteins present in our blood, maybe plasma na the liquid component of your blood, that's called as plasma. So in that liquid component, what are the things present there? That is what the question is. Fibrinogen அப்படின்றது என்னன்னா, it is a soluble protein. Soluble என்னன்னா, if you mix a salt in the water, you cannot see the salt, but it's there. அந்த மாதிரி there are proteins mixed in the plasma. You cannot see that, but it is there. That protein is called as fibrinogen, and this is what results in formation of blood clots. Fibrinogen என்ன ஆவாங்கன்னா, it becomes into fibrins. Fibrin is insoluble. Like from soluble, they become insoluble. That's how the blood clots, correct. Globulins. We usually say antibodies, but what is the specific biological name for antibodies? Immunoglobulins. We usually say globulins. So this is also correct. It involved in immune mechanisms. Albumins enna appadina, see, your hormones are transported through the blood, that's what you would have studied. But you also would have studied that hormones are made up of cholesterol, which is fat. But your blood is water based. How the water base will carry that fat based abdina? Remember, all the fat thing, they all transported with a special carrier, like a mule, like a mule donkey. They hangs on to that. This guy carries everywhere. And the mari transporter proteins for fat, are the albumin. This is a transporter. Generally, kind of we call it as a carrier protein for fat molecules. Like hormones, vitamins. And most important about another important function about albumin is that they are important for osmotic imbalance. That's why when you lose blood, a lot of this albumin will be lost. That is what the main problem is. That your body will go into a shock. All the three is correct. 12th question about clinical trials. The organization regulating clinical trials in India. Now this looks simple. I already told you that which simple is only on the exterior, but you need to have to make a critical choice. Okay. Yeah. Why COD is the choice of conflict? Why? Okay. But you guys zeroed in on either COD should be the answer. Okay. Very good. And why it is controversial, why it is kind of little, the dilemma that you guys face, why with the C and D? See, this is the organization established under Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. And who heads this organization is DCGI. And who comes the first, authority or the organization? And also look, do not think whether authority is important, organization is important. Look at the question. If you have chosen, because everywhere you would have read about Drug Controller General of India regulates the clinical trials, but this is an authority established to head this organization, which is a legal organization. So the answer has to be CDSCO. This is the right answer. Question 13 about who's that? Okay, I'm hearing unwrapping sound. Okay. It's okay, it's okay. I'm just kidding. Okay, don't take that. Just kidding. Okay, so it's about Acinetobacter baumannii. I'm also feeling hungry, pa. Acinetobacter baumannii. So why this one is of a major concern? Let me tell you. This is one of the most scariest microorganisms as of now, because this is quickly developing resistance against even the third generation antibiotic. First generation gone, second generation gone, third also they have developed antibiotics, and they say that this is going to be the next pandemic. If they develop such a thing, and they're going to cause large scale death and no drugs to treat at all. So that bacteria is what called as Acinetobacter baumannii. It mainly affects people with human weak immune systems. Yes, it is also considered to be one of the important agent of nosocomial infections. Nosocomial infections na yarana. This is very similar to how you guys enter a full body checkup center. As a healthy person, you come out diseased, no? And with the payment. No, ஏதாவது ஒன்று கண்டுபிடிப்பாங்களா அந்த மாதிரி. You go to a hospital well and you come back with an infection. It's called as acquired infection. அதுக்கு வந்து it's called as nosocomial. You know, you go to the hospital sometimes. No, this is where everything is there. You know, that's a meeting place of bacteria. The convention, that's a convention, and you get that. You know, so that's what called as nosocomial infection. This guy is important aspect of this nosocomial infections. So one, it has a high mortality rate, 43%. And remember, a bacteria in the 21st century with a 43% is no simple task. So it's a very deadly one. It has developed resistance. Yes, all the three is answer. Question 14. Salt cavern based storage is a strategy used for which of the purpose? Okay. Okay. Something strategic. Okay. But strategic petroleum reserves. See, India has about 5.3 million tons of crude. But if there is any external imbalances or any shock in the external shock with respect to the oil trade, we have to manage for certain time. We need to have a buffer stocks. We have to store them. How can we store them? It's not like you can have barrels. You have to store it in such structures where you cannot just store it in barrels. It's impossible at all. So what they do now, they try to find natural cave-like structures where they can store it. Earlier they will store it in kind of salt water based. Okay. Earlier they will try to find for cave which are inundated. And what they do, they will remove the water. They will store this crude oil there. So now they are talking about not just any cave, but salt caverns. Okay, salt caverns. So the salt caverns, there is a new proposal that we need to introduce a salt cavern based strategy for the storing our strategic petroleum reserves. In fact, we have, what is the reserve that we have? The reserve that we have can help us to stay for 9.5 days without any import. If something happens, some instability in the oil trade, like Russia, Iran, or somebody they are doing something, we cannot get oil. We can stay for 9.5 days afloat. 10th day, we are in a deep problem. So 9.5. So we have to store them, right? So where we store? In two places. This SPR, strategic petroleum reserves. As of now, we have it in two. One, Chandikol in Odisha. Chandikol in Odisha. Chandikol. Chandikol in Odisha. One. Second, Padur in Karnataka. These are the two places. So very important topic, but not very well known, but important topic. So storing petroleum reserves, simple. Padur in Karnataka. 15th question about diethylene glycol, a topic that has become a rallying point to criticize India's pharmaceutical companies and the quality of the drugs that they manufacture, and why they have added diethylene glycol. Also, they have used ethylene glycol. Either they use DEG or EG. But what is the simple use? Have you ever tasted that syrup? Everybody taste? That's the reason, to give us sweetness. But how do we have to, what do we have to use? Usually glycerin has to be used, which is a non-toxic, but which is pricey. So as a supplement, we are using diethylene glycol. Glycerin also gives us sweetness, more viscous. Viscous இருக்கும் பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? அதுக்கு காரணம், they usually have to add glycerin. But they want to do kind of going for a cheap supplement, and that is DEG or ethylene glycol. So B is the answer. Okay, let's move to the next 5 set of questions, please. Okay, thermobaric weapons. This is a very unconventional weapon because usually a weapon is usually that causes an explosive blast. That explosion has to be a very quick combustion that happens, and any combustion requires a fuel and an oxidizer. And this is where the weapon system uses a technology that we already used in air breathing propulsion technology, ramjet, scramjet. What they do, they will use a liquid fuel, okay, and design it such a way that this liquid fuel is distributed in a large area in aerosols. The weapon will do that. Once it is launched, it will distribute the fuel in liquid aerosols over a large area, and then just ignite it. Now, this whole fuel with that ignition will use the oxygen in that area, and it causes a huge explosion over a wide region. What are the two major things? One, a very large level of explosion within confined spaces. Second, it also depletes oxygen in the zone, because it's oxygen that it consumes, that whole oxygen in the area will become depleted. So it's gonna, if you want to close your eyes and shoot, this indiscriminate shooting, this is like indiscriminate bombing, that everybody in that area will be killed, and that's why it says it should not be used in civilian areas. So that's called as thermobaric weapons. So thermobaric weapons simply saying two things: one, fuel dispersal in aerosols; second, ignition. What about oxygen? No oxygen. That is an atmosphere. Why I have to use it? It's an oxygen. It's so what is oxygen that is used? Atmospheric oxygen is directly used. So the question, what is it for this question number 16? What's the right answer? Yeah. Is there anything that you guys are missing in the question? No. It uses oxygen. Not பாத்தீங்களா, அதுதான் not. Not na NOT not, like KNOT not. No, not is a not. So read questions very carefully, slowly. Question number 17 about LIGO, laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory. LIGO, it is an international network of laboratories. In US there are two such LIGO observatories, Louisiana and Washington, and the third one is expected to be coming up in India. So we can call it as international network. Yes. That detect the ripples in space-time. What is the ripples in space-time? That is what called as gravitational waves produced by the movement of large celestial objects. Yes. First one is correct. LIGO India will be located in the Dharwad district of Karnataka. No, it's located in Maharashtra. Now Dharwad. The first ever detection of a gravitational wave happened by the two. No, I told you two is in US, Louisiana and Washington. So wrong. One is correct. Only one is correct. A. Only one is a correct answer. 18th question about early pro-nuclear transfer. This is the method commonly used for treating mitochondrial genetic diseases. Okay, what they do actually is, see, mitochondria is a problem. I told you already, mitochondria will be having its own DNA, and if it's mutated, I will have that particular genetic disease. Okay, how to solve that? How to solve it, Enana? Let's say that this is the mother egg, and this is a father's sperm, and they will make it to fuse. It will form zygote. This will be done in the laboratory conditions called as in vitro conditions. They will get a zygote. Now, in the zygote, which is the most important part of the nucleus, they will remove the nucleus. Remember, they remove the nucleus after the zygote has formed. After the fertilization is completed, the zygote is formed, and from that zygote, what is the zygote? You allow the zygote to grow, it becomes a child. But in the stage irukumbode, nucleus remove panniduvanga. Now, what they will do, they will take a donor mother, avangaloda egg edupanga. What they will do, avangaloda nucleus remove panniduvanga, because it's her heredity which they don't want. In the nucleus, in the egg eduthu, donor egg eduthu, in the nucleus will be placed here. What is the advantage of that? All the defective mitochondria is here. They are left behind, and this is taken place in a new egg. which has good mitochondria, and therefore the very problem of mitochondrial genetic diseases is resolved. So this is what called as early. Why it is called as early na zygote form ஆன கொஞ்ச நேரத்திலே பண்றதுனால it's early pronuclear transfer. So it involves transplanting the nuclear DNA from the fertilized egg into a donated egg. Yes. And it is mostly used for mitochondrial genetic diseases. One example for there are many examples where uncommon, but one enna sollalana diabetes insipidus. Another example very irukalla konja common is diabetes insipidus, and other one also retinitis pigmentosa, which causes muscle pain, weakness, vision problems. Retinitis pigmentosa, two common diseases associated with mitochondrial DNA. But for this, both are correct. Question number 19 about, it has to be simple, prime over, it's related to generic COVID drugs. Question 20 about NVS O1 mission launched in 2023. This is our mission, which is called the second generational NVS mission, NAVIC satellite mission, second generational, and it was launched using GSLV. It is the first of the second generation satellites. Yes, it is equipped with an indigenous atomic clock. I already told you the precision of the satellite is very important. What atomic clock they use now? Rubidium atomic clocks. And to which orbit they have placed? They have placed in geosynchronous orbit. This NVS-01 satellite, the first of the second generation NAVIC satellites, was placed in geosynchronous orbit. So here, all the statement, I'm sorry, first one was wrong, 2 and 3 is correct, only 2. Let's move to the next 5 set of questions. I have said zygote is made and then the nucleus is transferred, and that's the case. First, the fertilization is being done with the biological mother and the father, and then they will have what is called as a donor egg, and after the fertilization is done, the fertilized nucleus is transferred preceding the enucleation of the donor egg. That's the procedure. It's not like they will do that and then they will do the fertilization. Yeah, confusion. Okay. Yeah. See, we need to understand many things. The many things is because egg is in fact considered to be an inactive phase of a life of a cell. It doesn't constitute any growth literally. It attains the growth signals only after the fertilization is usually done. Okay, so the growth actually begins after that, and that's why when you see egg is something similar to a seed, an inactive phase. Okay, so the growth actually begins after that, and for many considerations, the success rate is considered to be after the zygote has been made. It has already the trigger for the new cell division to happen has already been started, and that is more ideal to do than doing that, because already the whole process is having a very high failure rate. It's not like you do once and you get the result boom. No, it has a very large failure rate, and to reduce the failure, it is always better to do the fertilization. Even though both are available logically, literally, but to reduce the failure rates, it's always better to do with the fertilization first, and then moving that. Even they say that even when you're moving, it's not like simply taking it and placing it there. Even this movement also involves some accidental transfer of mitochondria from that to the next, but that is okay. I mean, they say that. So when you say that, okay, I understand both can be done, but what is the right answer? Either like, you look at the question, okay? Just look at the question statement. It involves transplanting the nuclear DNA from a fertilized egg into a donated egg. What confusion is there? Okay. Okay, let's say both are there. Okay, doesn't mean that the statement becomes wrong. See, no, see, inga paranga, absence of a one statement does not make the present statement wrong. Yes. You clear now? Good. Question number 21, right? Okay. Sound varla. Question number 21 about monkeypox. So monkeypox is an orthopox virus. Yes, it belongs to the pox family of virus. The characteristic feature of the pox virus is how they spread between the community. They spread mostly through three methods: through aerosols, okay, droplets, air droplets, aerosols, contact, and also includes animal to humans. It also spreads from animal to humans, so that is correct. It also indirectly makes the third statement also correct. It causes symptoms very similar to the smallpox in terms of inflammation, skin inflammation, the boil-like appearance. It's all the same. All the three statements are correct, given. 22nd question about trans fat. Okay. I told you in the last class that the fatty acids can be divided into two basic types, saturated fat, unsaturated. Unsaturated means having double bonds. Now, when we say this unsaturated, okay, double bond, having double bond, how to simplify that? Okay, this unsaturated can be two types: cis fat and trans fat. So do not get confused that trans fat is considered to be a bad fat, cis fat is considered to be a good fat, but sometimes we used to think that trans fat is a unsaturated, that is wrong. Trans fat is also unsaturated, cis fat is also unsaturated. Then what is the difference, Abdina? We have to look at the carbon structure. The carbon, that big carbon goes like that. Where the double bond comes, trans usually means opposite. Okay, transgender children, trans always means opposite. Enna aguna H hydrogen, if it is on the opposite side, it's called as trans. If the H is on the same side, it is called as cis. So in the cis trans enna double bond vechi kadayadu, positioning of the hydrogen atom around the double bond. How the hydrogen atom are positioned along the double bond is the secret. This is good fat, that is a bad fat, even though they both are unsaturated. Normally, cis fat is abundant in plant sources. Trans fat is normally found in animal sources, including butter. The butter that you take, it contains about 10 to 13% of trans fat. Not completely, but 10 to 13%. But also, industrial processes like hydrogenation will make it up to 80-85%. So it can be of natural origin, yes. The trans fat can be of natural origin, yes. They increase the tendency of blood to clot, yes. They cause many problems in our blood. The most important is they cause inflammation. Inflammation vandala platelets will go there, and that will result in clot formation. Already I told you platelet nala enna clot formation. So both are correct. About qubits. So qubits, when we have a bits, okay, that is what the basic unit of computation for a classical computer, for a binary computer, 1 or 0 input and solvanga. For a qubit, it's slightly different. It's not just binary, it's multiple possibilities. It's called as parallel processing. So it can be 1, 0, 1, 0 or 0, 1 at the same time. So this quantum computing based on what is called as quantum superposition. Superposition, like existence of multiple states at the same time. For example, this light is coming now. You call it as a wave? Yes. You call it as a particle? Yes. Is it wave particle? Yes. Is it particle wave? Yes. All at the same time. So this is what called as quantum superposition, existence of multiple states at the same time. Okay. So அந்த possibilities, probabilities தான் நம்ம quantum computingல யூஸ் பண்றோம். For example, when you take digital computer, it's only 1 or 0. But when we use 4 possibilities in single thing, now that increases the quantum power, processing power. So it represents the information in the quantum form S. It can be either a 1 or 0, wrong. So parallel processing, naturally a multiple existence in the same time. It is hard to build and requires huge cryogenic refrigerators. These quantum particles, we are talking not electrons, electrons going in a wire. So these electrons has to be isolated from the rest of the ecosystem. Because these quantum particles, if they come into contact with another one, this guy will lose its characters. So therefore, building a quantum computer, why it is very difficult is because the so-called quantum particles, you need to isolate it with external noise. You need to keep it isolated from external interference. And third, you need to keep it at a very low temperature. Then they will kind of good boys. You make it a little warmer, they become rowdies. So that's very problematic, and that is correct answer. It is hard to build. So 1 is correct, 3 is correct, only 2. About what comes under the idea of space debris, meteoroids. Yes, meteoroids are the ones that reaches the earth, escaping the atmospheric burning, escaping the atmospheric re-entry. Most of the things will be burnt in the atmosphere, and the burning now we call it as meteorite. But any object which is bigger than meteorite can survive that burning and reaches the surface. The remains, the remains in that we found. That's called a meteoroids, correct? Dead satellite, yes. Commonly defunct satellite, yes. It also left over after the collision. They are all called as space debris. All the 4. 25. About a conjugate vaccine. Conjugate vaccine is very simple. Like when a weak guy is being bullied by some gang, this guy will go to a brother or a close friend. Hey, come with me, let's face them together. It's something like that. That is a weak antigen. Weak antigen, they stimulate immune system. But this guy is a weak guy. They cannot stimulate. We send a weak antigen with a strong antigen. Now the immune system is hyperactivated. Now the weak antigen also becomes powerful. So there are some which we use to hyperactivate weak antigen. We use a strong antigen. This is what called as conjugate vaccine. So conjugate vaccine, it combines a weak antigen with a strong antigen as a carrier. Yes. Normally, let's say this is a bacteria that causes a problem. What we do, Abdina, we beat this guy so much like a torture. We make it so important and we send it into vaccine. It's called as live attenuated vaccine. This guy, so impossible to make a disease. 1. Second, we kill, torture death. Then we send it into the body as a vaccine. That's called as inactivated vaccine. Live attenuated vaccine. The guys are live, but cannot cause a disease. Now what they do, we are doing a different torture. We take only this. Why I have to take entire thing? I take only that. These are called as subunit vaccine. Remember, subunit, you are taking a part of this. You are taking a part of this. This is called a subunit vaccine. Remember, conjugate vaccine is a type of subunit. We take only one part, one component. But that may be weak, weak antigen. We send it with a strong antigen. Now that is called as conjugate vaccine. So it is a type of subunit vaccine, S. Except some possible allergic reaction, see, it is very safer. Rather than sending whole bacteria, you are sending only few. Some people may have allergic reaction, that's it. Otherwise, it's very safer, very safer. So except some possible allergic reaction, they are usually safe and effective, S. All the 3 is correct. Okay. So let's move to the next set. 26. There was recently a national emergency was declared by Peruvian government. I'm talking about 2023, not 2024. And because of a large scale incidences of Guillain-Barré syndrome in their population, and this syndrome is actually affects the nervous system. What it affects now, we say the nervous system or the basic unit are in neurons. Neurons has a very funny structure, and this is like a wire, an electrical wire. Imagine an electrical wire without a plastic insulation. That insulation illana enna agum imagine. So likewise, neuron also has insulation. This is called as myelin sheath. This myelin sheath is the insulation for the neurons. But what happens in Guillain-Barré syndrome? This myelin sheath is lost. That gets degraded, that gets destroyed. That's what called as Guillain-Barré syndrome, and this can come because of many infections. HIV infection may result in it. Epstein-Barr virus may result in it. Even COVID infection may result in that. So, so the point is, we don't know what it caused, but that actually affects the nervous system. 26, A is the answer. Everything? Oh my God. இவ்வளோ பண்ணி மண்டை மேல இருக்கிற கொண்டையை மறந்துட்டேனம்மா. Okay. Sir, okay. I think this is a compensation for the TCG, you know. Nice. So, question number 27. Flyby mission. So, flyby mission என்னன்னா அப்படியே mission send there போற போக்கல நான் வரட்டா அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அப்படியே போற மாதிரி you know. They see have a visit there. But the point is, if this is one planet and it is launched from here, it goes there, visits and goes away. It never make one round. Okay. If it makes one kind of one orbit around it, it's called as orbital. Flyby abde poradhu, you know. So flyby, non-orbital of the space object in observation, precisely correct. We have done it so many times. Okay. Flyby is done for many. A good example includes Voyager. Voyager has done flyby with our Uranus. Now, orbiter, observation of a space body from Earth's orbit, no, it's their orbit. When you say Mars orbiter, Mars, it goes to the Mars orbit and orbits around it, not from Earth's orbit. Wrong. Lander enna, it usually considered to be soft landing. Lander has to land there. Okay. Not destroyed on impact. Then they are called as impact probes. They are not called as landers. So 3 is wrong, 2 is wrong, 1 only is the answer for this. 28th question. Now we are trying to move towards clean sources of energy, and one good candidate for that is hydrogen. But we need to also find solutions for how to store that hydrogen. Okay, so what are the different forms of storage that is available for us? Conventionally, we can store under gas cylinders, but it needs to be covered under very high pressure, you know, approximately about 350 pascals. Means 350 times more than the atmospheric pressure, extremely pressurized. We can do that. Liquid hydrogen under cryogenic temperatures about minus 253 degrees Celsius, still very energetic process. You need to lot of energy to maintain the temperature, but we can do that. Hydrogen adsorbents, such as activated carbon, we can also use it. We can have activated carbon. We can get the hydrogen adsorbed onto that. It also can be done. But the problem is retrieving it is a very problem. You know, this is like investing your money in a hawala. You can do that. You know, you cannot know whether you get it back or not. So, but it's possible. The next is chemical storage in ammonia. Why the problem with the hydrogen? Because it's a gas. You need to store it in pressure. You need to store it in cold temperature. The good thing, change it into ammonia. Or you react hydrogen with ammonia, it forms ammonium. That extra hydrogen goes and forms ammonium. It's stored in the chemical bonds. We can do both. Hydrogen can be stored as ammonia or ammonium. This is considered to be one of the potential idea. But a very viable, very potential, because ammonia is a raw material for many things also. But இது யார் ஸ்டோர் பண்ணுவாங்க? It's the next problem. Hydrogen ஸ்டோர் பண்றதுக்கு அம்மோனியா வந்திருக்காங்க. இவங்களே யார் ஸ்டோர் பண்ணுவாங்க? That's the next question in next test. Okay, so but answer all the four. Question number 29. To produce monoclonal antibodies, see, for example, when a new bacteria goes into your body, your immune cell all will go and attack. You know, they all will go and attack. So some immune cell will see this and make antibodies. Some of the B cell will go and see this, will make antibodies. They all will produce antibodies at the same time, and you know all the antibodies will go and hit this. They'll hit this. No, kind of a group attack. So இது பண்ணாம என்ன பண்றோம்னா we take only this B cell, we selectively take it B cell, and then we take a cancerous B cell called as myeloma. What we do, we fuse them both. Now what happens is this normal one, no, it produces only this antibody. No, once we fuse that with a cancerous cell called as myeloma, now this guy becomes immortal. No, producing this guy becomes like a factory. Keep on producing antibodies only for that monoclonal antibodies. This method is what called as hybridoma technology. It's called as hybridoma technology. So this technology is what commonly used to make monoclonal antibodies. So which is what given in the first statement, correct? They can be used in targeted therapies for cancer and Alzheimer. In fact, recently they proved that when Alzheimer can be better handled, not treated, but better managed using monoclonal antibodies. Correct. Both are correct. Ma? Monoclonal antibodies for Alzheimer. Yes. Crimean, okay, next, 30th question. Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, it is transmitted by ticks? Yes. It is actually a virus. It's a virus. Crimean Congo, okay. Fever, okay, fine. I thought it was something obvious. It's actually a viral disease. And this usually affects birds. Most particularly, it affects, one moment. Most particularly, it affects ostriches. Ostriches. Very vulnerable to the CCHF is ostriches, but generally birds. But what happens is, these birds will have ticks. If that ticks, which has taken the blood of these infected birds and comes into contact with humans and do the very informal, decentralized blood donation program, then we get the same virus within us. So that's what the whole message is about. Yes, it is very much happening. So the point is, wherever the ticks are there are very high possibilities for the CCHF to be present there. But the ticks usually loves a warm climate. Okay, but it doesn't mean that it will be absent in the colder climates. The incidences of the disease will be low, not zero. Will not be found under the kadayadu. The rate of CCHF will be low in cold, temperate countries because ticks will be low there. But it's not zero cases. In fact, CCHF have been reported in India, in Canada, in Northern America. So we cannot say zero cases. Wrong. Yes. வராதுன்னு நினைக்கிறோம் ஆனா அப்படி கிடையாது. Okay, so statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is wrong. C. Okay, let's move to the next set. Okay, question number 31. This question is about cluster munitions. Cluster munitions is like kind of an, you know, the fantastic multicolor rocket that we said. We ignite only one, it goes to the sky, and there it explodes and creates multiple fragments. Each one burns by itself. So you send some kind of an ammunition either by land-based delivery system or an aerial-based delivery system. That once the bomb is deployed, usually if this is a land, before it reaches a land, they have critical sensors to observe that. And before it reaches a land, it spreads and fragments into smaller warheads. So large area it spreads. Like that rocket I had given you example, right? That multicolor rocket, it goes like that. And each one can explode on its own. So this has a wide area impact. But the problem with this cluster munition is that not every fragment that goes will explode immediately. It will be there. You step a foot on your own, it will problem. If some child then goes and plays with it after 1 year, it will explode. So they say that it has a failure rate of about 40%. So it's like, many things will be there inactivated and it can cause problems later in the future. So they say it's very unsafe, particularly in civilian conditions. So that's what. And why? What is the reason for that? Because once released, the cluster munition fragmented into small warheads, and many such mini warheads may not explode at all. Perfectly reasoned. So statement 1, statement 2 are correct, and its explanation for statement 1. A is the answer for this. Now next is about deep fake. No. Yes. Deep fakes, which is once again causing concern in the recent times with the growth of AI. So deep fake, it's kind of a morphing digitally about another person's video or a photography. So it'll end up they uses a particular artificial strategy called as generative adversarial network. Is once you give the video clip of your model, okay, the original, and you want to make an AI model from that, what they do now, that is one called a generator which will make the changes. For example, you give one model, you want to make it to appear as another person. What AI will do, it will try to do it, but it will have another one called as discriminator. This guy will criticize, hey, this is a bad job, change it. No, this guy will change it and send it back. This guy will say, no, not right, change it. So this keeps on happening so fast. Finally, it comes to a point where this guy will say, okay, good. Now this is something very perfectly matching, looks real. It has a lot of flaws. Even that what is called a deepfakes has a lot of flaws. So what they say is usually don't look around the face. Look on the corners where these kind of mishaps are very glaringly visible. Photo they focus because facial features is very common for the AI, but other than the facial features, AI makes a lot of mistakes. So the point is, second is also correct. Generative adversarial network, they will use called a generator which generates, and the one which criticizes, a discriminator. Finally, they give the output, and it is always very difficult. No, it's with the right eyes, it can be detected. Nowadays, there are also kind of standards being at least negotiated to put a timestamp, to timestamp on the location details to understand that, when that video was originally created or not. We were trying to find some standards for this deepfakes. So 3 is wrong, 1 or 2 is answer. 33rd. So 2024 interim budget has given a great focus on deep technology, deep tech, with 1 lakh crore, with a very low investment, with no interest, I think, 0 interest for 50 years. So that's something, a great gamble that our government wanted to make. But what is deep tech, Abdina? It aims to develop innovative solutions and substantial scientific and engineering solutions, yes. But the point is, it needs a long-term commitment of the research and development to create the product. A good example for that of a deep tech, AI. AI is one such example of a deep tech, but the point it comes, it will spread like a wildfire and create a disruption in many existing systems. So it has a disruptive capability, yes. But it's not like, once you have the deep tech, it will immediately rolled out into kind of products. What the problem is that why the government has given 1 lakh crore, but it has given 50 years for this participants to given the time to develop the products, because it is time consuming to reach that market maturity. It is a very long time consuming. That's why government is given 50 years. So short and the top, it takes a long time. Answer is only 2. Uh, mystery program? Mangroves. 35th question about Aditya mission. Aditya mission L1 mission, statement 1. It aims to provide valuable insights into the solar corona. Photosphere na that is kind of an analog of sun's surface. Like how we have the surface, the ground. ஆனால் சன்னுக்கு கிரவுண்ட்லாம் கிடையாதுங்க. There is nothing called as ground. But if you keep that as an analog, photosphere is considered to be the surface of the sun. Chromosphere என்னன்னா it is similar to our atmosphere. That's considered to be analog of atmosphere of the sun. In the atmosphere என்ன ஆகும்னா it's not like very standard because very sun itself is very energetic and very chaotic. This atmosphere will be going ups and down, kind of waves, very strong wave kind of things. You see in many pictures like this. It goes very thick. So these are called as corona. But sometimes if it is so energetic, parts of this corona will be shoot into the space. That is called as coronal mass ejections, CME. That's what it is. Very simple. Okay. So we want to understand about all that, which our aim is to send through Aditya L1, which is going to take place in this year or next year, 2024, 2025, and that's correct. And why we are, of course, yes. So statement 2, space weather and its impacts and its impact on Earth is primarily determined by the sun. Yes. See, we have what is called as Earth's weather, but there is something called as space weather, and the space weather is largely determined by the sun which is in the vicinity, and the one sun which is in the vicinity is sun, and therefore sun largely impacts the conditions of the solar system, and therefore we want to understand the space weather, and for that we have sent Aditya L1. Yes. It is because to understand the space weather, we wanted to study solar corona, photosphere, chromosphere, and also the solar wind, all that. So the answer is A. Right. Let's move to the next 5 set of questions. Okay, 36th question about genetic engineering. CRISPR, one of the most popular and well-known tool for modifying genes, can be used for both gene editing as well as genome editing. Yes. So correct. Gene editing is more suitable for treating genetic diseases than genome editing. We need to see. No. See, when we say an organism and it has its nucleus, and this is what called as a genome. The entire DNA present in the nucleus, that is called as genome. What is gene editing now? In that whole genome, for example, you take humans, we have about 40,000 genes. Okay. In the 40,000 genes, one gene would have been causative factor for some disease. That gene alone, if you go and modify and correct the mistakes, patti tincture potu vela pathingana, now that is called as gene editing. Okay, means in gene editing you target that particular gene. But also meanwhile these are called as single gene disorders. A good example for a single gene disorder enna sollalana, cystic fibrosis, CF. Cystic fibrosis is a single gene disorder which is most ideal for gene editing. You target that single gene. But there are cases where it's not because of single gene, but kind of due to the consequences of many mutations in many genes. Now, either we can do individual gene editing for all, or you can do genome editing. So genome editing will create changes in many genes at the same time. means it's a genome level editing. But gene editing is a single gene level, and therefore we cannot say which is more preferable. For a single gene disorder, gene editing is most appropriate, and for other diseases where there are multiple genes involved, genome editing is more preferable. It doesn't like we can pitch one over the other that this is more preferable than the other. The choice is based mostly on the disease characteristics. So this is wrong. Enangma?
It is based on the disease characteristics. So, don't both of them can be an answer. Gene editing and genome editing.
Okay.
How you can say? So now only you said this is better than this. Better.
Based on my understanding, try to apply this. When you say genetic diseases, it includes all. Single gene as well as multiple gene. And how can you say that genetic editing is applicable for both? No. One only is the answer. 37th question about gravitational lensing. So lensing means focus. What's a lens? It focuses things. It bends light. What a lens does? It usually have things like that. When a light passes, it focuses. It's actually bending of light that happens. So what we are talking here is, let's say this is Earth, and let's say this is some other body somewhere away in the universe. You are watching it. The light comes to you. Usually when you watch it here, பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு பாயிண்ட் தெரியும், ஒரு source star மாதிரி ஒரு பாயிண்ட் தெரியும். But what happens? Imagine there is something in between in the center. ஏதோ ஒரு உங்களோட line of sightல வராங்க. Remember, if it is here, it's different. If it's here, it's different. But let's say it's here in the line of sight between the Earth and the celestial object. Now what happens? This object is invisible object. Let's say it's a black hole or some other invisible thing. அப்ப என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா, the light from the star goes in all directions. Okay, now what happens is, whatever the light that goes, because of this big object's gravity, will come towards you. இப்போ இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு situation won't happen all the time. அப்ப என்ன ஆகணும்னா, this like perfect line of sight இருக்கணும். That object should be there, you should be there. In the line, you want to have that object, invisible object like a black hole or something else. அப்படி இருந்ததுன்னா, when you look, எப்படி தெரியுமா இருக்கும்? சென்டர்ல அது உங்களுக்கு தெரியும். சம்டைம்ஸ் தெரியாம கூட போகலாம். ஆனா இந்த லைட் எல்லாமே சுத்தி வரும். கைண்ட் ஆஃப் it bends and reaches you like a focus ஆகும். இது எப்படி தெரியும்னா, இப்படி தெரியும் உங்களுக்கு. Very bizarre. Why this is happening like that அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, because இப்படி போற லைட் எல்லாமே is bent and sent to you. It seems like that. So this is what called as gravitational lensing. So gravitational lensing பொதுவா எதுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா, to discover black holes. Because இது நடக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரே வாய்ப்பு, we need something strong enough to bend the light, and that can be black holes. And what else can bend light? I told you, dark matter. The same is applicable for dark matter also. Yes, 2 is correct. It is only absorbed with a visible light. Yes. Sorry. It is absorbed with radiations, not just visible light. Sorry for that. It is absorbed with radio waves also. Similar phenomenon happens with radio waves also. It helps in measuring the expansion rate of the universe. No, because when we talk about expansion rate of the universe and its increase, what we use usually, we use 2 things. அது எதை ஹெல்ப் பண்ணோம்னா, ஒன்னு dark energy. அப்படி இல்லைன்னா, how do we measure? What we call it as redshift. These are the 2 things that we use in terms of expansion of the universe, not about gravitational lensing. It has nothing to do with this. This is wrong. Redshift na enna, if an object is there very long, you observe it. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter what its temperature. Most of the times, the light you receive is tend to be towards red region. They are thinking, why this is happening? Because the phenomenon is called as redshift, because they are moving away. It's expanding. It seems to be coming to you towards the red region. So redshift and dark energy is a explanation for that, not gravitational lensing. Wrong. 1 and 2. I'm sorry. Only 1. 1 is also wrong. Only 1 is the answer. A 38th question. Radiation breeding is used to make certain novel variants of plants and animals with the desired characteristics. Yes. For example, there was a recent variety created called as um, pungentless mustard. The variety was called as Lakshmi. Okay, pungentless. Mustard oil always has a pungent flavor. அது இல்லாம create பண்ணிருக்காங்க using what is called as radiation breeding. So it used to make certain novel variants of plants and animals with the desired characteristics. So by looking at the word radiation breeding, you understand what they do. They take the seeds and they expose it to high energy radiations like gamma ray and X-ray. And what the gamma ray and X-ray will do, they will introduce mutations in that seed. Mutations means sudden change in the characters. We expect ஏதோ ஒன்று நடக்கணும் அப்படின்னு. But remember, this radiation exposure is like shooting a gun in blank. You do not know where it's going to hit. Like in the darkness, if you shoot, you do not know where the target is. So when you have the seeds, you expose it to radiation, you will never know where that radiation will cause mutation. It is based on where the mutation happens, the change will happen, correct? So when you have a large DNA, the mustard is having large DNA. Mutation, remember, is always random. Mutation may happen here, the change will be that. Mutation may happen here, the change will be that. You cannot clearly characterize this is what the change has to happen. You cannot just do that. So the problem is, it's like hit and miss. You have remember, when you take a huge amount of mustard, you expose it to radiation, most of the times the seeds will die. Because the radiation damage, the mutations, that will be most toxic. Some will survive. But even the one will survive, it will be on its own. It's not like this is a character I want. If you clearly want this is a character I want, you have to do genetic engineering. You have to select the gene, you have to change it. Radiation is like random changes. Out of the random, one will come out. It's cheaper, more cheaper. So exposure to radiation induces mutation in DNA at a random site, correct? DNA la random kondu varuvanga. But remember, if it is random, how we can have the desired character? You cannot have that. It's a chance event. Radiation breeding is a chance event. It's cheaper. You can do it faster. You can do it multiple times. But the point is, you will never know what you get. So one is wrong, two is correct. Yeah, D. 39th question, Project Netra. Project Netra is about space debris. It's a project to monitor the movement of space debris. Yes. C is the answer. 40th question, about Nirakshi, the autonomous vehicle, which can dive up to 500 meters under the water. It can be operated wirelessly without any tethering to the surface. Correct? From the ground to the vehicle. Yes. 500 நினைக்கிறேம்மா. Sure? Can everybody check? Is it 300 or 500? Nirakshi? Can anybody please check, ma? Okay, I'll continue. We'll keep this in reserve. Okay, so it can be operated autonomously and wirelessly. Yes. So this is, let's assume, other than this, let's assume this is the correct one. Statement 2, when we say remotely operated, autonomously operated, it is under the water, you are on the surface. How the communication can happen? You say that move left. How the communication can happen in the water? That's not an easy thing like how we communicate in the land. There is a water as a medium in between. So wireless communication will be ineffective in underwater, and any underwater vehicle has to be tethered to the surface. This has to be correct or this has to be correct. But let me tell you, this is wrong. There are using ultrasounds for initiating communication from the ground to the unmanned vessels. Ultrasound is used. But when you use visible light, or even laser, the water will diffuse it. You cannot use laser for communication. You cannot use radio waves. That's all will be a problem. So you have to use something which will move through the water. So that's why they usually use ultrasound for the communication purposes. So one pathingla 300 okay. So both has to be wrong, right? But why I made this mistake when I make this question? One moment, one moment. Sorry, typo. Sorry for this. I think 300 has to be the right answer. You guys checked it. I'm not sure exactly how much it is. So let's assume 300. And keeping that in mind, I think none of the option is suitable. Okay. So நம்ம E ஒன்று வச்சுக்கலாமா இப்போதைக்கு மட்டும். Okay. So next 10 questions பார்க்கலாமா if you guys are okay. Okay. One moment. Okay, 8 minutes for the next 10 questions. Okay, for the first question. The bioactive compound and the source, capsaicin is what that gives the that the burning sensation when you eat chili or pepper. So it's present in chili and pepper, not turmeric. Lycopene is actually responsible for the red coloration of the tomato. Okay, it actually belongs to what is called as carotene. Look at the word lycopene, carotene. What is the main use? It is used mainly for antioxidant properties. But it's correct. Allicin is what that gives a unique aroma for chili pepper. I'm sorry, garlic chicken. No, and the unique flavor of the terma. Adukku karanam allicin. Allicin gives that uniqueness, for the garlic. So this is also correct. Only 2 is the answer. 42nd, antacids. Antacid is due to excessive low pH, or kind of acidic pH in your stomach. So we need to neutralize that. How do we neutralize it? You may think any hydroxide will do the job, but let me tell you, as much as acid can destroy your cells, even hydroxide can also destroy. Sodium hydroxide, strong sodium hydroxide, even that will cause the burn similar to acids. But it will cause burns. And remember what will happen if you drink it. Never do that. So it's something like, when we say soaps la pathina hydroxide da. Appo acidity irukku soap kachi kudikalama? No, you cannot. They both are strong alkali. You cannot use it. Sodium chloride, ஏன் இங்க இந்த ஆப்ஷன்ல வந்திருக்காங்கன்னு தெரியல. This guy is out of the blue, out of the team கிடையாது. The only one is magnesium hydroxide. This is what most commonly used. Most commonly used is magnesium hydroxide. C is the answer. Also aluminum hydroxide is used, but magnesium is most commonly used. Okay, 43. The core of the earth experiences rotation that causes the emergence of magnetic fields, is called as geodynamo. Correct? The core of the sun is known to experience rotation, yes. Causing nuclear fusion to occur, no. Nuclear fusion has nothing to do with the rotation of the sun. Nuclear fusion is happening because of the temperature of the sun. The temperature is the main factor for the fusion to start. Okay, so adukku rotation ku sambandhame kedaiyadu. So 2 is wrong, 1 only is the answer. 44th question. According to WHO, there should be zero intake of trans fat. Wrong. Actually, they say about 1% of your diet should contain trans fat. The reason is because in our body there are something called as steroid hormones. Very important steroid hormones are doing a critical function in your body, but You understand where that word steroid comes from? Cholesterol. So cholesterol, in fact, is the raw material, the starting point for the making of steroid hormones. Remember, without that, this will not be done. And that steroid hormone is in fact made from trans fat. So the point is, trans fat is also needed, but alava, 1%. So it's not say 0. It usually suggests it should not exceed 10%. So first one, wrong. Trans fat does not contain a double bond in structure. I already explained that. It has a double bond. Wrong. Neither one, not true. Which of the mineral given below is essential for blood clotting? Blood clotting, see, this is a topic where very much UPSC is very fixed upon. Like a toy to a dog, sometimes when you give a toy, the dog is very transfixed, I'm not saying UPSC is a dog. See, symbolic, okay, symbolic. உண்மைய symbolic தான்ப்பா, நம்புங்க. So blood clotting அப்படின்றது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா something very question that have been asked so many times in the history of UPSC. So இதை பத்தி நம்ம பார்க்கணும் அப்படின்னா the most important mineral required is calcium. And this calcium is involved in many other things also. Let me say, cell death called as apoptosis. It is involved. Muscular contraction, it is involved. Nerve signaling, it is involved. So this guy is something very important. Nerve signaling, it is involved. Okay. Blood clotting, what is the vitamin used very essential for blood clotting? Vitamin K. Vitamin K is very important for blood clotting. And another vitamin K deficiency, you will have loss of blood, hemorrhage, hemorrhage, blood loss. Okay. And what cell is important for that? Platelets. I told about that. What cell involved is platelets. Okay, we have covered that. And which is a genetic disease that affects the blood clotting? Hemophilia. Okay, that zone is done. Okay, 46th question. The idea that the universe is expanding by which phenomenon? I think I just explained about that. Redshift as a phenomenon. Right? So whatever the source of light, whatever the temperature of the light, when you observe it, for example, let's say, usually, when the temperature of a body is higher, the color of the flame it emits is also is of low frequency. Is of high frequency. For example, when you have a gas with a very good quality fuel, it burns blue. But when there is any drop of food or any gravy or any other thing or anything there, it will be burning with orange or reddish. Vibjya solon theriyuma, the color. So this means high frequency, this means low frequency. Let's say there is a star with a very high temperature. So then based on the temperature, you have to see the light in blue color. But what happens is you are here and the star is here and you are all moving away, which means expansion of the universe. அப்ப என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா இங்க இருக்கிற இந்த light வர 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 as it moves towards you, it slowly moves towards the red region. This is called as redshift. So why the redshift happens is because of expansion of the distance between you two guys. So this is what the proof for the expansion of the universe, and this is where the dark energy comes. This is not happening normally, this is happening abruptly. It's even spreading faster. Dark energy is responsible for that. So the answer is moving towards the red region, called as red shift. This phenomenon is called as red shift. And there is also a principle that explains why this happens. It's called as Doppler effect. Doppler effect explains this. Okay. Okay, next. I think this also I have explained earlier. Which of the following can be used as vectors? Vectors are what? Carriers, couriers. Because you have to take gene from one, you have to take it to another organism. That is genetic engineering, correct? But who is going to take gene? You cannot do it because genes are very fragile, very, very, very small. You need someone to carry that. So those who carry that are called as vectors. Now, who can we use it as a vector? Bacteria, fungi, virus, S. CRISPR-Cas9 is a cutting tool, editing tool, not a carrier. Wrong. 4 is wrong. So only 3 is the answer. This concept is also now gaining ground. It's actually an old concept, but it's gaining ground recently is because epigenetics. Okay, we are finding new things about this epigenetics. What epigenetics? Now, when we say DNA, if any changes happens in the DNA, that gets stored, and that change will come to the next generation. Next generation goes like that. So, which actually means there is actual change in the DNA. For example, when we say I'm sorry, okay. G, let's say if the A changes into T, that is mutation. One changed into another. Okay. So there is actual change there. This is called as mutation. This will be passed on to the next generation, will be carried on. But let's imagine GGAA, no change happens, no mutation. This is one DNA, this is next one, double stranded DNA. No change happened. But still, there is a change in the way the gene behaves. But the beauty about that is, it is passed from one generation to the next. So it is heritable. But once it is heritable, means passing from one generation to the other, you think, oh, something happened to that sequence. Nothing happened to the sequence. The sequence is original. No mutation. But still, the gene is behaving differently. அதுக்கு பேரு தான் எப்பினா அவுட் சைடுன்னு அர்த்தம். எப்பி இஸ் ஆல்வேஸ் மீன்ஸ் அவுட் சைடு. எபிடெர்மிஸ் வெளியில இருக்க ஸ்கின்னோட வெளியில இருக்கிற லேயருக்கு பேர் தான் எபிடெர்மிஸ். டெர்மிஸ்னா ஸ்கின்னு, எப்பினா அவுட் சைடு. ஸோ இதுல நடக்காம இதுக்கு வெளியில நடக்கிற சேஞ்சஸ் தான் இஸ் கால்ட் அஸ் எபிஜெனடிக்ஸ். ஸோ எபிஜெனடிக்ஸ் என்னன்னா heritable changes in gene expression without any changes in the DNA sequence. No mutation but change. So that is called as epigenetics. This is something, one of the curiosity, why that happens. So 48, A is the answer. 49th question, Cambrian explosion. This Cambrian explosion is expected to have happened about 510 million years ago. Very, very long back. This was a time when evolution was kicking the pace. But when this time touched upon, suddenly there is an explosion of the new organisms getting evolved. You know, this is the time when the flower of life started blooming. Okay, so that sudden explosion of living organism, evolution of organisms during this period is called as Cambrian explosion. So here it refers to increase in biodiversity. 50th question, fiberization. Fiberization is an important strategy to be used in 5G technologies to make the network and the bandwidth faster. You cannot leave the mobile network on its own. So what they do, no, they want to make the mobile networks, individual towers, to act like a one unit, not like this tower is working, this is doing separately. What they do, you know, if there is multiple towers in a region, they will connect all the towers through optic fiber cables. Now this will help in the integration and the better utilization of the bandwidth available in the region. So this process is called as fiberization. The process of connecting radio towers with each other via optical fiber cables. 50th, A is the answer. So it's been a great time with me last 10 days. I hope you guys also benefited with the study time. Science தவறி நீங்க சொல்றது எனக்கு கேக்குது, but it's okay. 3 days, what you have gone through, you will never know how your thinking has changed. Okay, question பார்க்குறது, அந்த term பார்க்குறது, I'm telling you, it will be really useful. You have to experience it to know the benefit. Okay, so keep practicing what we had done, solve the question papers more, find the where you make the mistakes, and keep growing. Only 10th day, you have 90 more days to grow. Okay, after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we'll see back in another 7 days. But right now, I'm taking a leave and wish you all a good luck. 90 days irukka marandradinga. See you all after some time. Bye.